Hey, what is up, guys? Bluntcuts here. This is a Watcher of Realms video. I always appreciate when you tune into my channel, so thank you for joining me on this journey where we are going to talk about Fenris. Fenris is the new Northerner AoE Marksman, should be coming to a banner near you relatively soon. It is Sunday night right now, right before reset. However, I would not surprise me if he is on the banner coming next weekend, and we all know this by the time you guys are watching this. So we'll have to see what happens, but I do know if it's not this next weekend's banner, it should be the week after that or the week after that. He's coming relatively soon, but I can't wait for him. Very, very cool hero. Very similar to MAUL. Let's go talk about his base stats. All right, you were looking at an A0 Fenris on the screen right now, as I do have him built. Let's go through his base stats real quick. So 11,387 base HP, perfectly fine, perfectly respectable, not too low, certainly not on the high end by any means. That would be more like around 13k or so, but 11,387 is perfectly fine. You're gonna be able to build decent HP on him without having to stack too many HP percent substats on his gear, which is wonderful. That is ideal. His base attack is 3,949, which is okay. It's not great. One thing to keep in mind with this, his A2, he doesn't get any attack bonus on it. He does not get any further base attack from his awakening. So this is his base attack in perpetuity. No matter what awakening you do have on him, he is going to remain at 3,949. So that is somewhat limiting. Base attack speed is 100. He has standard 150% crit damage. Rage regen auto is 14. We can take a look more specifically at his rage regen stats down here. It looks like he is getting 10 base with his basic attack, 6 when he is attacked, and there's nothing else that's really all that important down here other than to say he does have 22 cost, which is not outrageous for an AoE marksman, but is kind of on the high side at the end of the day. 3.5 second attack interval, which is pretty standard for AoE marksman as well. Nothing to write home about as far as the rest of these base stats are concerned. I'd say the headliner here is really that base attack at 3,949 with no further upgrades via awakenings. That is a little bit limiting, not the end of the world, but is something to note. Let's go take a look at his skills. All right, so the first thing I do want to show you here is Fenris's talent. I'm going to pull him on the screen right here. You can see he's got quite the range on him, doesn't he? Pretty badass, especially when he is shielded. He does get this massive, massive range, but more on that in a second. So I'm going to throw the talent on the screen right here, and then we're going to watch it in action. So the talent reads, when the hero has a shield, increases his basic attack range, basic attack and cosmic burst, inflicts slow on enemies. So that slow, toss that up on the screen as well, is a 50% slow. Pretty good as far as I am concerned. Now, I want to show you something. Look at this. So you see this attack range right here. He is not able to reach the enemies that are in front of him there, right? But when we drop, he is going to attack. Reason being that when he is shielded, he gets a full extra tile at the end of every single one of his tiles in the attack range. Now, that is not always the case when we do see extended ranges in here, particularly if you're thinking of like Aracha. Oftentimes when you have a range like this, you get the 2 on the side, not the one in the center as well. This is a full additional tile on the end of every single one of the squares of his attack range, and that is massive because now he is able to hit things in the center lane, 5 tiles in front of him, 4 tiles in front of him on the left and the right. That is huge, especially when you consider that he is able to apply a 50% slow to anybody that he does hit with his basic attack. That is just so incredible. I really love that he has this standard slow. Anybody that he touches, not just with his basic attack, but also with cosmic burst, which we will talk about in a second, is going to get that 50% slow. The 50% slow does have a 3-second duration. So essentially, as long as somebody is getting hit regularly by him, they are in his basic attack range, they are getting hit by his basic attack, which again is AoE, they are going to be taking a 50% slow more or less permanently. And that is massive, especially for GVG, which is the area that I do think this guy is going to shine the most. And since we're talking about it, let me throw his basic attack up on the screen right now as well. Deals 120% damage to up to 5 enemies, prioritizes airborne units, pretty standard. The key thing here is remembering it's up to 5 enemies, so it is going to be an AoE attack on the basic attack, which is great. Good to know the target cap. And more importantly, this means that he is going to be able to slow up to 5 incoming enemies with that basic attack as well, which is really great as a control unit. Let's go talk about his ultimate. All right, Fenris's ultimate, Undying Will, when fully skilled up. This will be a 700 rage cost ultimate, 500 initial rage. It's got a 2-second duration, knocks back up to 10 enemies in range with 2 times strength. Sound familiar? Dealing 800% AoE damage and inflicting stun on them. Throw the stun up on the screen as well, but it is a massive stun. 3-second stun in this game is huge. So think about MAUL, that knockback, plus they're not going to be able to move for 3 seconds afterwards. I mean, it's crazy what this thing can do. The hero also gains a shield equal to 50% max HP for 10 seconds, so all of a sudden he's going to have that extended range. Now I'm going to show you the range right here on screen. You can see I am going to be able to clip this like floating tentacle guy that is up there, and we're going to be able to use the ultimate from the spot he's in right now. You'll see, it looks amazing. I just did over 1 million damage to that goddamn guy, and good God, that is a lot of damage. So I do want to keep this in perspective here, so I am going to drop in MAUL here. We're going to get full rage bar on MAUL, and then I will use his ultimate. Now, Fenris hit for over 1 million on these two mobs in the front. Now, this MAUL and Fenris are both in Ageless Wrath. They are very, very similarly statted as far as the gear that they are wearing. So I just want to compare the damage amounts here. So you see, MAUL hit for 731k. These guys have like no defense, but still, we're looking at a good 33% increase in the ultimate damage on Fenris versus what MAUL is able to put out. That's really massive because even though MAUL doesn't do a crazy amount of damage outside of his ultimate, the ultimate does hit very hard. And it's good to see that Fenris is able to do the same thing. Now, one thing I would caution you, because of the low base attack, it is going to be somewhat limiting against high defense targets, a la what you see in GVG, although they did just reduce the defense on a lot of the demon soldiers as well. So I do think that Fenris is going to be a consummate badass in GVG. He is going to be somebody who not only can control units, but also, if the enemy does not time things appropriately, they're going to take a massive shot and a bunch of crowd control from the ultimate that Fenris has put out. Let's go talk about his next skill. All right, so I did mention Cosmic Burst earlier when we were talking about the talent. This, along with the basic attack, will apply that 50% slow via his talent. Let's read through what it does other than that. So it has a 10-second cooldown. When an enemy enters attack range, deals 400% damage to one enemy and 300% damage to up to 5 nearby enemies of this target. So basically the way you want to think about this, the primary target damage is going to be half of what his ultimate is, and then you're going to get a little less than that on the surrounding enemies as well. Up to 6 targets total can be hit by this, so very, very cool. This effect can be triggered one time every 10 seconds. Awesome. Awesome. Especially considering that it is going to be yet another crowd control component. Let's go talk about his passive, which I think, honestly, despite the fact I love everything else that's going on with this hero, but this final passive really is just the icing on the goddamn cake. Let's go talk about it. All right, guys, his last skill, his passive, Onerous Vow. When allies on the battlefield have a shield, they gain rage regen. Everybody loves a little rage regen, right? Well, this isn't a little rage regen. This is a lot of rage regen. Oh my God. They gave this guy Elowen level rage regen for all of his allies on the battlefield. There's no range here. When allies on the battlefield have a shield, they gain rage regen. It's not just Elowen level rage regen, it is steadier rage regen than Elowen level. I mean, it's nuts. So long as you can keep a shield on your allies, they are going to get 1% rage regen per second, no matter where they are on the battlefield. That is the same amount as Elowen, who gives 3% rage every 3 seconds, but instead, Fenris decided he was going to one-up her, and he was going to give everybody 1% rage every 1 second. So it's just steadier rage with the same amount. So goddamn good. Basically means that you can bring a Northerner comp, and they can have Elowen level rage regen without having to bring in somebody who is kind of a subpar GVG healer. So yeah, just crazy stuff going on right here. I did not expect this. When I first started playing around with this hero, I got to this and my eyes kind of bugged out of my head. I was just shocked that they gave this to Fenris. Now, there are a couple of negatives about it, right? You need to be able to keep a shield on the allied units in order to benefit from this, and that is kind of the main thing that is going to make this not as good as it might initially seem. But if you are running a Northerner comp, you're going to get a lot of shields. You're going to get this rage regen a lot, and that is something that is going to make Northerners a hell of a lot more compelling to run. So let's go take a look at his awakenings. All right, let's go quickly through his awakenings here. The A1, Undying Will, also grants allies in range a shield equal to 25% of their own max HP. Undying Will is his ultimate. This basically means, especially when you consider Onerous Vow, the skill I was just talking about, the rage regen skill, you are going to be able to give all of your allies in range a 25% shield along with 1% rage regen per second, essentially 10% rage, which is just ridiculous. Really, really cool. Now, I talked about his cost being 22. It's a little on the high side. However, if you do get into A2, that is going to go down to 19. You're going to get -3 cost on the A2, which is real nice. I would prefer to attack personally, but I understand that cost, I guess, is important if you're playing anything except for GVG. But the A3, Cosmic Burst inflicts defense reduction on enemies. Now, this is minus 20% defense reduction. It's pretty beefy, especially, again, in a GVG game mode where you are going to be able to provide, basically every 10 seconds, you're going to be able to hit somebody with this. So you're essentially going to have 50% uptime on this defense reduction. It's really, really nice, especially considering it's AoE. You can hit up to 6 enemies with Cosmic Burst, which should mean that you can hit 6 enemies with this defense reduction. Really, really cool. The A4 is 5% penetration. I don't know why it's not 8. Most of the time it is, but I guess he's just that goddamn strong. They couldn't give him the full 8. So on the A5, increases the damage multiplier of Undying Will by 300%. That is nearly a 50% increase to it. So it's going to go from 800% damage to 1,100% damage, which is crazy. So when I showed you the ultimate and it hit that enemy for about 1 million damage, this would have hit for somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1,350,000, 1,400,000, something like that. This is going to basically jack up the amount of damage that his ultimate does do. This is going to be a very good champion, especially if you can get him all the way up to A5. Let me give you my final thoughts on him. So Fenris, I love everything about this dude. I love his kit. I love his look. I said everything. I don't love everything. There's one thing I don't like about him, and that is his faction, which I think is really going to kill him. He is a Northerner Marksman, which just really is not ideal at the end of the day. I like the Northerners a lot, but they are not great for GVG. For one main reason, their lords are terrible. Elder is bad, and he's the one that you really would want to come in and save the faction, right? If they did a rework of Elder, even if they just gave him 1 extra tile of range, oh my God, the Northerners would be in such a good spot, but they refuse to do that for whatever reason. Allegedly, there is a rework coming at some point, but we don't know when that's going to be. And he's somebody who is just in desperate need of a rework, but Fenris will really benefit from that if that ever happens. Unfortunately, Hars is the other legendary lord in the Northerners. As much as I don't think that Hars is quite as bad as his reputation would imply, I still don't think he's great. And I think it's going to make it so that it's going to be hard for the Northerners to compete with, say, like the Arbiters and the Nightmare units, although Nightmare is kind of diminished a bit since they made some of the updates. So, but the Arbiters are as strong as ever. Watchguard is really, really strong as well. And I just don't know that Northerners are ready to compete, at least not until we do get a rework, right? I think the main problem is that if you bring Hars, you're typically only bringing 1 tank right now in a GVG defense, and Hars is just not really up to snuff. Now, I do know he does have his exclusive gear that did come out, which limits the amount of damage that he can take in a single hit, and that is nice. That is nice, but I just don't know that it really puts him on par with some of the better tanks in the game. The strength of Northerners, ironically, is their tanks, and yet, if you do want to bring a legendary lord, you're either forced to bring an ineffective fighter in Elder, or you're forced to bring Hars, who doesn't really provide all that much as far as offensive bonus to his allies, and it's just not a good tank. Not as good of a tank as the other tanks that are in the Northerners, which is a faction that is kind of defined by their tankiness. So, yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate situation that they have let, and by they, I mean Moonton has let linger for like an extended period of time. So I am hoping that this is part of a grand plan to make some changes. They are going to address these deficiencies in the Northerner faction. If they do, this guy is going to be S tier in PvP, in my opinion. I think he is just really, really well built. He brings a lot of different elements to his kit. He brings a ton of CC. He brings a 50% slow. He brings a knockback. He brings a stun. He also brings rage regen. He brings shields for his allies if you have him at A1 or higher. He does massive damage on his ultimate. And the ultimate cost is relatively low at 700 rage cost, which is going to make it hard to work around. So, yeah, I really like this hero, and I think he is going to be really solid in this game mode. Now, I don't have a damage test that I can show you right now, but I will be putting one out tomorrow, or more accurately, later today as you are watching this, so I will have something out so you can take a look at him. I'm probably going to be primarily comparing him to MAUL, but I might toss some other AoE Marksman in there as well. I don't know that he's going to be like a legit AoE damage dealer. However, I do think that his single hit damage is going to be very high on that ultimate, and that is really good to see on a hero that I think you're going to primarily be bringing in as a CC champion. So I think this guy is going to be badass, and I can't wait to get him on my account. Now, one thing, I don't know that I'm 100% going to say that this is like a must pull, go all out for this guy, and it is because of the faction deficiency that I was talking about. I just don't really know where we need him other than like GVG, right? And I think that if you're going to use him off faction in GVG, you are going to need to have him at A1 or higher. So if you are a whale and you're pulling a lot, you know, if you feel like you can pull enough on these god-awful 15x rates to get him at A1, and you feel confident doing that without, you know, breaking the bank, you know, I mean, go for it, I suppose. That is my main problem with him, though, is that I think that his faction is going to kind of kill his functionality until they do fix the Elder situation. And once they do, oh, good God, he's going to be a beast, and I am going to be looking for the next banner. I might be pulling this weekend as well. I have no willpower, you know. I don't listen to my own advice constantly, so we'll see. I'm going to noodle it around a little bit. I'll see what advice I have for you when I do my Should You Summon later in the week. But in any case, guys, thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I truly appreciate it. Please do click that thumbs up button. Toss me a subscription if you would be so kind. I know a lot of you do watch my content. You are not subscribed. So please support my channel. Really would mean a lot to me. So with that said, good luck to y'all. I'll catch you all next time.